Hello, these are the lesser known news stories of the Ukraine war for Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. The first story is Ukrainian police have uncovered a multi-million dollar defense fund theft operation. And this was explained in a Telegram post from the National Police of Ukraine. It stated that it's uncovered a major scheme which involved creating fictitious companies to steal money that was meant for repairing and maintaining Ukrainian military equipment. Participants in the theft ring are said to have laundered more than half a billion hryvnia, which is equivalent to 11.8 million US dollars, almost 12 million US dollars. The fraudsters transferred the funds to the fictitious companies to make it appear as though the money was going toward the purchase of parts and labor, but it ended up going towards their personal profits instead. Three of the suspected participants in the theft operation have received notices of suspicion and face up to 12 years in prison with confiscation of their property if convicted. And then the next story, this actually has been covered. It's starting to be covered more in recent days by the mainstream media, but I think it's still kind of worth reporting. It's a British former military instructor was arrested for allegedly working with Russian intelligence. And Ukrainska Pravda reports that a former military instructor from the UK was arrested by Ukrainian authorities for allegedly transferring Ukrainian military information to Russia's FSB intelligence agency, which was the former KGB in Soviet times. And this was being done to help Russia in its war efforts against Ukraine. The suspect originally came to Ukraine in January 2024 to train Ukrainian service members in Mykolaiv. He also worked with the Ukrainian border guard unit, training them during his time of service. However, Ukrainian intelligence agents collected evidence back in May, suggesting that he started helping the Russians by gathering details on military training centers, the identifications of Ukrainian soldiers, and the locations where military units were stationed. He also reportedly discussed with his Russian handlers the possibility of using explosive devices. After completing one of his assignments, he allegedly received a payment worth the equivalent of $6,000. He remains in a detention center awaiting trial and has been denied bail. And moving on, so next we have the Ukrainians capture a Filipino soldier who fought for Russia. This story comes from Army Inform, and this actually they published a story from a project known as the I Want to Live project, and it explains that Ukrainian forces captured 52-year-old Raymond Santos Humangan, who was originally from the Philippines but ended up in Russia under the false promise of receiving a high-paying civilian job.
Gumangan, Anolid, Alcala, Pangasinan, Philippines, September 18, 1973. I'm here now in Lobo detention camp, Ukraine. They said when I apply, I will assign in logistic. But when I arrived in Russia, I was assigned in carpenter. A side contract, they give me 400,000 rubles.
And how much your salary was in months?
I don't know what is the exact, but I think 200,000 rubles.
When he arrived in Russia, he claimed that he was soon forced to sign a military contract, after which he was deployed to Ukraine's Sumy region as a rifleman and in Russia's 51st Airborne Regiment of the 106th Airborne Division. Organizers of the I Want to Live project also say that they know of at least 18,000 foreigners from 128 countries who have fought or are still fighting for Russia since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Russia also recently accused Ukraine of trying to recruit Filipino mercenaries themselves to fight in the war in exchange for a monthly salary worth the equivalent of $5,000. Next story. This comes from Ukraine's Yellow Ribbon Resistance Movement, and they posted on Telegram that Russians are reportedly continuing trying to force Ukrainian children in the occupied territories to support their war. And the post explains that the realities of Ukrainian children in Russian occupied territories and how they are often forced to continue to support the takeover of Ukraine. And one of the latest examples it took place in Ukraine's occupied part of Kherson Oblast. And the Russian occupiers recently held an event at a library in the Skadovsk district. And this event involved having the children write letters of gratitude to Russian soldiers instead of the usual Christmas letters to St. Nicholas. In the occupied part of Ukraine's Zaporizhia region, the Russian authorities also organized exchanges of Ukrainian books for Russian military-themed coloring books in schools. And Ukrainian children are even being forced to weave nets in schools for the Russian military. And then moving on to our final story of today. This comes, Ukraine's Prime Minister, Yulia Sviridenko, announced on Telegram that a new system is being enacted to shorten the amount of time for air raid alerts in some of Ukraine's regions that aren't experiencing real threats at a particular moment. The system was first tested in 13 regions and has now been expanded to all other areas throughout the country except for the heavily embattled Donetsk and Luhansk regions. The shortened air alert durations will allow many businesses in these communities to operate with fewer disruptions, and residents in these regions will also likely welcome the greater sense of peace and quiet between Russian air attacks. So that is it for today's news briefs. If you like these videos, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I will catch you all in a future video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.